Back to the Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast, the Tour de France Femmes, avec, Zwift, the final stage from Nice to Nice. We have 4 laps of the Col d'Ez, only 99 kilometers long, a 2-hour 45-minute stage, and nearly 2,000, or just over 2,000 meters of climbing. The climb is 7.5Ks, 6%. The last rep is harder though, 6Ks, 8%. They go up a steeper, different way up the Corniche, the Col de Four Ways, the Col de Quatre Chemins. It is 3.5Ks, 8%, but in there is a 12% kilometer. After yesterday, we had Vollering with a narrow lead over Cassia-Niewiadoma in the GC, 8 seconds. We'll get back to the drama that continued to unfold yesterday evening. Reusser, a distant third now on 1 minute 12, but a very distant gap from her to ELB in fourth of nearly 2 minutes, who then herself had 50 seconds on Niedermayer. For the white jersey, Niedermayer had 1:11 over Longo Borghini's teammate Blasi for the white jersey. They were the main things we were looking at: podium, first place, and indeed the white jersey. In fact, not even podium. Actually, that's not true. I wasn't looking at podium. I was only today looking at first place in the white jersey as active competitions. This episode is brought to you by our show partner, Join Cycling. Big shout out to Join throughout the year for supporting us, not just during the tour. But Benji, we have to start, of course, with the aftermath last night. One of the most viral things from cycling this year, I would say, the Demi gate.
Yes, and for once it's about the racing, which I actually do enjoy because I didn't enjoy the other gate that happened earlier in the race. To give some backup to what we're talking about, yesterday after the race there was some drama because we saw Cassia-Niewiadoma first giving a relatively brutal interview and then going up to a certain rider to call her out. Her take in that interview was, and I quote, "At the beginning of the final climb, Célia Géry blocked me on purpose to the barrier, so I had to stop pedaling. If they want to compete, they should compete fair play. I lost all respect for them." She then went up to Célia Géry after the race and basically said, "Why did you do that? Why did you," I don't know the exact quote, "push me to the barrier?" Something in that sense was the quote. Then, at that same exact moment, Ronnie Lauke, which I think is a sports director at Canyon SRAM, accused Célia Géry, or
team principal,
in quotes, a teammate in an opposing team, which clearly was pointed at Géry, of trying to take Niewiadoma out of the race. Now, during the podcast yesterday, I interpreted that quote as taking out of the race as in trying to crash someone out. You interpreted that as in trying to take them out of contention. Is that fair?
Yeah, I more meant, trying to take her out of the moment of the race, try to put her on a gap or something, not like actually properly take her out of the race, if that makes sense. But yeah, the quotes just keep happening. Vollering backs up her teammate. She defends Géry. She says Cassia knows deep in her heart that kind of thing just happens, and I'm sure she didn't do it on purpose. So, but Vollering also said, "I don't know what happened. I didn't see anything. I just saw it was in front of me, and it was nothing."
Now, Lars Boom also gave an interview on Wielerflits, I'm pretty sure directly after the race, where he basically walked through the strategy. My interpretation of the strategy to begin with, I'll give first and then I'll compare it to what Lars Boom said. My interpretation was basically that in the run-up to that corner before the climb started, that for Géry was in first position, Vollering in second position. They would switch places before the corner, in doing so entering still position 1 and 2 into the corner. That's the goal here. So that after the corner, Géry can open up the gap in front of her, and in doing so, letting Vollering basically get a free gap so that Niewiadoma has to come around Géry in the process, etc. Now, in reality, Kasia didn't exactly let that second place go so freely to Géry, which is what created the situation in the first place. And Lars Boom basically confirmed that the strategy was indeed for Géry to, in some way, hinder Kasia in that corner.
I gave him the benefit of the doubt, actually, and with maybe just the snippet I saw, and I thought he was just saying the basic drop the wheel strategy. The drop the wheel strategy is the most basic, legitimate cycling tactic there is in the classics, in a sprint, in a lead up. You'll see this in a sprint lead out when there's a lack of control. teams will go through
Reverse
the corner.
lead out.
Yeah, it's a reverse lead out. And what you do is, as you exit the corner, you progressively drop your teammate's wheel and like let it go out of the corner, and then people can't come around you in the corner, so then the gap is gone. That is different to then what the video comes out later, at least in my perspective. There's now that we have extended overheads, finally, very grainy, I must say. There's trees, it's grainy footage. We have a slightly extended moto shot, and we have one fan video from the side of the road. The overhead shows in the corner entry that Kasia has not been taken for a fool. She sees what's coming, and she slides straight onto Demi's wheel and follows her. She's basically going to Demi's wheel on the outside. Jerry's sliding back, and Jerry, remember, Jerry's going slower than Kasia in the entry to the corner because she had to let Demi in front of her. Therefore, she is slowing, and Nivedoma is maintaining her speed or accelerating. Jerry moves wider before the apex into Kasia. Kasia, she has herself to blame here. She got to throw a big elbow right there into Jerry. If someone's coming at you into the corner like that, you have to protect yourself. And she lets Jerry push her off her line a little bit. She then gets to the exit of the corner. There's enough space, but she's still going full speed. And here the overhead for me stops. And that's also what the fan phone image shows. And then we have the extended moto shot, but that's then also blocked by Demi in front. Then I see Jerry move again right. She accelerates and moves again right. So she's not just dropping Demi's wheel in her line. She moves again, puts the handlebars in front of Kasia, and then slow pedals. If Kasia doesn't stop, she's going into the fans or the curb. 100%. She's crashing. And so that is not just a straight up drop the wheel tactic. Now, am I overblowing it, Benji? I mean, you looked at this 10 times steeper than me.
Well, I think we both looked at it extensively yesterday, and I agree with most of your take. I think the one thing where I maybe differentiate is that for me, it kind of just looks like Jerry is desperately trying to make this strategy work in the corner. And in doing so, while because let's be honest, midway the corner, you've got Gia on the left, you've got Kasia on the right. Kasia's first at that point, if we have to draw lanes, so to say. That the first is not as relevant to me as a whole, but it shows that Jerry was stalling, going into the corner, that Kasia was coming around. And then Jerry actually accelerates midway the corner to try and get ahead of Kasia again. And I'll ask you a question right now. What is the reason that Jerry is trying to do this right now?
Because if you block someone, it's a descent entry into a kicker. If you block her and she has to slow down, and Demi's going 45 kph into then kicking and spending her watts, it's just way more efficient. And that's why the gap was huge at the start. And so the watt spike that Kasia has to do to even get back to the wheel, Kasia has to do a much higher level physical performance for the first 100 meters of this climb. So everyone's like, well, Demi dropped her anyway. It's like, yeah, but Kasia had to do the higher physical investment for the first 30 seconds because of this tactic. And that's why it wasn't a drop the wheel strategy. It was drop the wheel and block the yellow jersey, which Jerry successfully did. That is against the rules. Obstructing another rider intentionally is against the rules.
I struggle with the rules thing on this. I don't think I can look at what happened yesterday and say this is against the rules, because the rules in cycling are not just what's written on paper, it's the way the UCI applies it. And I've never in my entire life seen the UCI apply obstruction in a manner like this outside of a sprint. In a sprint, we see this exact situation a lot. We see the situation a lot where a lead out is obstructing other sprinters on purpose. Lewis Askey, for example, earlier in the year actually got away with it, which he should have gotten a yellow jersey there. A yellow card, slight difference there. He should have gotten a yellow card in that situation. He got away with it. A lot of other riders get penalized for obstructing an opposing sprinter after finishing your own lead out. This is basically what's happening with Jerry in this situation. I've never seen a rule be applied to that. I don't think a rule should be applied to that without precedent. Oh. I think it could be a conversation in the future, though. My take on this is simple. I think it's not illegal. I think it is a dirty strategy. But I think if you and I were in a team car, we tell Géry to do the exact same thing if the outcome is winning the Tour de France.
No, I disagree with you. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't cheat to win the Tour de France.
Well, in the grand scheme of the sport, this has never been considered cheating, but we've also never really seen it in this exact situation.
That's what I mean. It's like this rule is not confined to sprints. Obstruction by a rider in order to prevent or delay the movement of another rider is against the rules, and it's more likely if it offers an advantage or if it's intentional. So I think it is against the rules, but it doesn't matter. You know why it doesn't matter? Because what are you going to do? Give Géry a penalty in the points jersey classification? Give her a 20-second GC penalty? What
We've
does it
had
matter?
this discussion before.
It's a moot discussion.
It's a moot discussion, but also in sprints, it's not a moot discussion. In sprints, you and I are fanatically on the ball of if a lead out of a sprinter, like I think Van der Poel did that for Philipsen back on the F1 course in 2023 Tour de France or something. Back in the day, the one where Wardenskjold caused a crash after his lead out, if I recall. That specific stage, Van der Poel impacted negatively another opposing sprinter after finishing his lead out. In doing so, he benefits his own sprinter Philipsen. In that situation, I think in sprints that lead out should be able to get penalized for the action, or a sprinter should be able to get penalized in some way because of that.
What if Backstedt decides today? I'm not saying she would. What if Backstedt decides today, first descent of Col d'Ez, I'm taking out Demi.
Yeah, but
or I'm going to ride. I'm going to ride through shoulder to shoulder, give her no space, and run her super wide in the corners downhill. I'm saying this: if there's precedent for this, if it's a team sport, which it is, obviously, it's a team sport. And you're like, well, I think it's against the rules. Maybe it's not. It's hard to say that the commissaires, in defense of Géry, the commissaires didn't take any action, but it's a slippery slope. And yeah, I think I did personally. I didn't like Demi. Should have just said I didn't see it. I didn't see it. Sorry. I hope but I didn't. She shouldn't say to Cassie, actually, what happened to you? It didn't happen.
Well, I think everybody who saw the non-TMZ footage yesterday already noticed that something happened to Niewiadoma. Well, something impacted her to move a few positions back. Something did impact her. We saw that on the footage afterwards. But for me, it's not really about how do I explain this properly. For me, you were comparing it to Backstedt, for example. For me, Géry's strategy was not, I'm going to try and completely block Niewiadoma in this corner. For me, the strategy was for me that's the outcome. The strategy to me, it didn't look as premeditated as I'm gonna block her. To me, it was premeditated as in I'm gonna come around the corner in second position and slow down in that sense, but not with Kasia next to me. And I think Géry took it too far in that sense.
Yeah, I think the fight in the corner to me is still okay. In the corner, the fight, it's what happens after the exit, the second move back right, and the slowing.
So after the helicopter shot from a top is completely gone, you mean from the front on angle?
Yeah.
When basically the TMZ French TV footage from the motorbike that was not shown on broadcast.
Yeah, and Demi's
it's getting complicated here.
It's the second move right. And I'm like, yeah, but now you're changing your line because you know Cassie is there and you're blocking her and you're sprinting to get in front and then slowing. I think it was obstructed. But it's a moot point. I mean, is it part of cycling? FDJ played it. Did it mean they win the Tour de France? We'll see after today's stage. It is a gap in the rules though, because even if Géry, even if we all agree, which it's not all agree. I might view others.
The public is 50-50 on this issue, so nobody's ever going to agree on this.
I like to go with the old heads on this.
What do you mean?
Well, when Mihai said it was super dirty, then I was like, because normally me and you are pretty woke on these things. So like me and you are like, any slight movement is a deviation.
Any safety thing, we're like on the woke side.
Prison for 10 years, like
guillotine.
Yeah. And Mihai was like, it was super dirty. I was like, ooh. Anyway, you know what was good? Well, good and bad in a way. I'm sure for Caster it wasn't good. Like the highlight video I did is gone like 250k views, crazy views. It's one of our biggest women's pods ever. it blew the internet apart. It does show that people really care about this race. It goes to show how tight this race is and how this race has things happening that men's cycling could only dream of. A tight GC battle all the way through the last half of the race.
It's also just one of the best races of the season. Yes, today's stage, I'll be honest, it was not the best race of the season. This race as a whole, I've been enjoying every single day, that to the point that I'm going to wake up tomorrow and there's going to be a gap in my calendar. I'm going to be like, what? I'm going to have to find some happiness in watching a different race.
Whoa.
I really enjoyed this race. I fanatically enjoyed this Tour de France Femmes. This morning I woke up and I looked at the schedule of the day and I was like, why is this race 3 hours later today? But
that was bad.
Anyway, last moments on the topic of the Jerry stuff. This morning, Kasia basically, to be honest, some people differently interpreted that interview that Kasia gave this morning, but to me it sounded like Kasia basically backed up her comments. And Demi Vollering also did a Eurosport interview that I find a bit shocking. He said, I was a bit disappointed when I've heard Kasia's interview yesterday because she attacked my teammate. Perfectly fine. But the last sentence, Patrick, I didn't forget what Kasia did when I was on the ground
good.
2 years ago.
So good.
For context, in the Tour de France Femmes 2024, in, I don't know which stage exactly, I rewatched it earlier though, to be sure.
Stage.
Miss Punchy sprint stage is how I classify it.
Wiebes was there.
With about six kilometers to go, Vollering's riding for SD Works. Wiebes is a teammate. Wiebes causes the crash of Demi Vollering, so she gets crashed by her own teammate. Wiebes then rides away. She says afterwards in an interview, I saw something yellow, and then just rode off apparently.
On the ground.
One teammate not waiting. Blanka Vash stayed in the front group together with, I think, Wiebes to try and fight for the stage win afterwards, which did work out because Blanka Vash won it. And in terms of the whole story there is that SD Works wasn't even properly waiting for Vollering. And in doing so, that's why she lost the Tour de France Femmes 2024. She lost by 4 seconds. She could have easily made that up in the time that her team left her behind in that stage. And she seemingly blames Kasia because after the crash, Luz Aardiges from the breakaway was still ahead. She attacked her breakaway companions with 4 kilometers to go. Gap was about 12 seconds or something roughly on the leftover group. And Dijgaard was riding for Kasia Niewiadoma to go for the stage win or for GC gap. I don't really care. I'm sorry, when the last 10 kilometers of a Tour de France Femmes stage, it's insane.
It was an uphill finish too. It wasn't a flat finish. It was a punch. I've now looked at it. It's an uphill finish that you could defensively say Cassie can take bonies on.
It is insane to look at that situation and say, how dare you, Kasia, for doing that?
I mean, it's not nice. Maybe true, yeah, but also...
It's the last 10K of the race. It's play on. I'm sorry.
If SD Works are not going to drop back a domestique to help Demi, then Canyon SRAM shouldn't be expected to just wait for Demi in that. And it's not similar at all. Demi's own team crashed her. Jerry here tries to run Kasia into the crowd. Wow. What are we talking about?
I think that's the extreme explanation of it.
If Kasia doesn't break, she goes into the crowd.
Anyway, that story to the sideline. If you have a different opinion, drop it in the comment section below. Patrick and I are open to hear your opinions.
Embrace debate. It has blown the internet apart. My favorite
Bring back gaps.
Bring back gaps. My favorite thing was Demi in the post-stage interview yesterday. She was like, "Yeah, in my daily affirmations, I already visualized like taking yellow here." I was like, "Was that all that was in your daily affirmations? What else was in the daily affirmations? Was Jerry part of them? And what she was going to do in the corner?"
Jesus Christ. Okay.
They admitted it was the team tactics. So anyway, I will see. Demi, I think it made this stage different. Demi clearly wants to make a big statement on this stage to show I don't need to win by 8 seconds. I don't need to win defending. I don't need my teammate and this drop the wheel thing. That is not going to be the story of my TDFF. I think that was clearly, it fired Demi up for this stage.
Yeah, I think so too, but I don't think it's just that. I feel like Demi Vollering, sometimes I feel like she might struggle with confidence on the big days, like the big mountain days, even though I view her as the best GC rider in the world. And then when she gets into a losing position after having lost something on a favorite day, so to say, that's when she seemingly can break 2 rolls again. And I think that's also partially what we saw yesterday, because I can only imagine how powerful the attack of Vollering was. Even if you believe that Niewiadoma could have followed if that incident doesn't happen at the foot, which I don't know, to be honest, then Vollering's attack has to have been super strong to drop Niewiadoma on that length of effort in the first place. But talking about today, Patrick, I was looking forward to it because, like you said earlier, we had 3 Col d'Azes with an easier gradient followed by the hard Col d'Azes with a rolling descent to the finish, which that rolling descent does favor Demi Vollering a bit, but let's be honest about it, if Niewiadoma wanted to make the 8-second difference, then they would have had to do it a little bit earlier than that, and we saw some of that, but not on the first climb, I feel like, because Joey was the most active on the first climb, right? With Wlodarczyk attacking multiple times, then Squibon just before the top, but is it fair to say that on the first climb, the peloton was down to like 35, 40 riders, roughly?
Yeah, it was 40 riders.
How did we look at FDJ in terms of team strength at this point in the race?
They looked all right. I mean, they got Jerry there and Berthet. They only really need 2, and Jerry's going to be there until last 15, and Berthet is probably going to make last 10 on a good day. And if you want to make the last 1 on your group ride, you need the Join Cycling app. Summer as well. You've got no excuses anymore. You're not, Benji just said, Benji's like, I don't have any racing left to watch. No excuses. Get Benji on the plan, a new plan tomorrow, every afternoon. Tonight, exactly. That's a good point, actually. Training is about consistency. Even doing a small workout is better than doing nothing to keep the consistency going and fitting it around your real life. Some of you, I understand, at least 20% have real lives, and that's where Join comes in. Join is cycling's smartest training app. It's not like AI fiction. It's been around for years. As you know, they've been supporting us for years with backed by science and adapting to you training plans. And if you miss a workout or ride longer than you planned, workout or your availability changes, you can just change it automatically. It changes right there on the spot based on your inputs. Whether you're preparing for a race, improving your fitness, or simply wanting more structure, Join takes the guesswork out of training. Get a month free trial of Join Cycling with no strings attached at join.cc/campaigns/Lanterne Rouge. The link is in the description down below. Yeah, I saw Scuba attacking. I think UAE were, I don't know what their plan was today because things change really fast for them and it gets taken out of their hands. Basically, next Col d'Azes, Viva Survives takes the IS green jersey done, so I didn't think she'd make that, but it didn't kick off quite enough. Backstep then, she does do her 20-minute power record here. She just, I would guess, on the second Col d'Azes, just nukes it. She drops Koch, drops Jerry. It was her that dropped Reusser, right? Backstep, not a Niedermeyer pool.
Correct. It was Backstedt doing a pull for basically the entire second Col d'Azes climb, dropping Koch, Jerry, and earlier than that, Music as well. So to be clear, at this point, FDJ, before Reusser drops, is down to Berthet and Vollering, so almost isolated. And Berthet was struggling at this point, but that's not because she's the only one struggling. Like you say, Reusser drops and Wlodarczyk is struggling, and I think Niewiadoma after the stage said she was not feeling great when Backstedt was pulling. This was one of the most insane pulls I've seen by a rider that I didn't expect to pull like this in a very long time. Like, it was an extreme version of what we saw by Noemi Rugo on Mont Ventoux. Because very similar in the sense that you'd attribute these riders to be there in the last 30, and maybe be able to do a pull that brings it down to 25, to 20, but the way Backstedt brought it down to 11 riders, Patrick, and I'm looking at Wlodarczyk struggling, but being there together with Blasi, ELB, then following with Berthet, Holmgren, Fisher Black, Niewiadoma, Niedermeyer, and am I missing someone?
De Vries.
Yeah. She was dropping after this, or was she still there?
She was there till last Col d'Azes.
Kerbal was there, you're right.
Kerbal was there, yeah. Everyone in GC's there basically against Reusser. Remember, Reusser has been clearly the third best rider in this race, uphill too. I mean, look at the punchy stages. She gets dropped. I don't know what the issue was. Getting dropped by Backstedt's crazy. This changes the race completely. I think Canyon had done everything perfectly up to this point. No way Canyon could have predicted that Reusser would drop off Backstedt's pace from a group of 10. And I was thinking, Canyon doing it perfect. You're going to create the situation where Jerry's dropped And Reusser, ELB can move. They can do things in the valley, and there are valleys here, and the downhills are proper pedaling, like 3% for 8Ks if you work together. Or if you're a powerful rider, you can take big time, or if you have to chase someone in your wheel, you're going to have to push 350 watts, they push nothing. And Reusser changing drops is bad for Canyon SRAM. I think really, really bad, because UAE don't have to do anything anymore. They simply have to just follow, and Reusser's then going to be out of the game. I mean, they can keep, because she drop. She wasn't like on 10 seconds yo-yoing. Then she crashes on the descent. And usually crashes follow when you're cooked. You're more likely to crash.
Especially with Reusser, who we've seen do some odd descent turns when she was cooked in this race before.
Yeah, twice.
It wouldn't shock me if it's a similar vibe to what we've seen before. Now, it sucks to see Reusser crash at this point. It has a major impact to the race, first of all, because while Reusser dropped means she's still relatively in the running for the podium. Because at that point, like you say, ELB needs to have her team pace, so to say, to get that podium spot. When she crashes, the gap goes from a minute to 4+ minutes. And at that point, she's basically with the entire Movistar team, and she's out of the podium story, which means that UAE basically resets to their original strategy, is how I perceive it, which on paper should be trying to roll attacks again, because they don't need to pace right now to secure the ELB podium. That's already on the plate after Reusser's crash, right?
Yeah, I mean, podium's locked. Like, Reusser's basically stopped. And then we get to the third Col d'Ez. We have the group, 3 UAEs. They're looking good. They even now can probably switch to Blasi going to attack Niedermeyer. And then Niedermeyer's in a difficult situation. I have to say, I know I like to create maybe speculative scenarios the night before of what could happen. The idea, Canyon were not going to let the situation play out, because when it was in the valley after Backstedt paced, like Niedermeyer started closing down Longa Borghini. I was like, no, don't do that. So it was never going to. The idea there was going to be these attacks, I don't think it was going to happen.
Because what you're trying to say basically is that you were hoping that Canyon SRAM would go to, we're risking losing the race to try and win the race. Mode. So if Reusser or ELB attack, then Niedermeyer doesn't close it, force Berfet to do it, force Vollering to do it afterwards. In so doing, putting Vollering in between, do I either right Niewiadoma back to a yellow jersey position, so to say, if the gap expands significantly, or do I try to drop Niewiadoma in the process, or do I react with Bertin and jump close it to try and force situations like that? And we saw the opposite. We saw a very traditional plan by Canyon SRAM. If I'm being honest, disappointingly, I was expecting more by Canyon SRAM today, and that's not Zoe Backstedt. Backstedt, perfect job. But what followed after the second Col d'Ez here, on the third Col d'Ez, we basically see no pacing or work there, because it's Bertet basically controlling that climb. We maybe see a small attack towards the top of the climb by maybe halfway the climb by Kerbao. Bertet then aggressively closes that, but we see a Holmgren attack where she nearly gets taken out by a Panda, which, fuck you, Panda. Then,
wait,
did you not see the Panda trying to take down Isabella Holmgren? She attacks on the right side. The Panda, like the idiot spectator it is waving at the camera while the riders are coming behind him. In doing so, basically accidentally punches Holmgren in the head with his left arm. Giant panda, not a real-life panda, a human in a panda, just to be clear.
These people are such NPCs. They should be put in prison, not jury.
Anyway, Holmgren gains a minute after this attack, because no one else is really doing anything. Berfet is doing the pacing. Blasi does a small attack at the end of the climb, and that's where it gets interesting, Patrick, because Niedermeyer follows. So, to me, at this point, it looks like Canyon SRAM is just as interested in protecting the white jersey as trying to win this actual race on the final climb. It's clear that they're not going to try anything earlier, and we see that by Niedermeyer responding to Blasi, but we also see ELB going to a radio at that time, and after she does that, Blasi stops attacking.
Exactly, and ELB, I don't think she was bluffing, because the radio is not a bluff. She is suffering big time on this rep, and I think Canyon SRAM had to just pace here with Niedermeyer to the top, and they could have gone quicker. They were letting Holmgren take a minute. Like, they were going slow by what Niedermayer could do. And yeah, also when you go with Backstedt and then you just stop for an hour, then what's the plan? And I know that they got really stuffed by what happened with Reusser, but actually then for both Niedermayer and for Niewiadoma, they should have squeezed with Niedermayer on this rep. If you drop ELB, then Niedermayer can podium, and you also keep making the race super hard for Kasia to attack Demi, because also the lead out for Kasia, you're not going to do it deep into the last rep. The last rep, it starts steep early. Like, you may as well actually squeeze the last 2Ks of this rep.
I considered, honestly, the race pretty much over by the time we get over the top of the second last Col d'Ez, which that's maybe unfair because it's always possible that Vollering has a bad day and still cracks on the final climb. But this is where I felt like, okay, Canyon SRAM's way too traditional here. They're not thinking out of the box in any way strategy-wise, and we're going to see a pretty basic lead out by Niedermayer for Niewiadoma on the final climb, and we'll see in the span of 3 steep kilometers, 4 steep kilometers, whether the difference can be made. And that's kind of what we were running towards, because Holmgren gets caught, I think, pretty much just after the foot or behind the Simon Yates corner is how I'd classify it, of the last Col d'Ez. This is the Quatre Chemins one, so a very steep one. And I see Niedermayer basically setting tempo at the start of the climb. I have to be honest, Patrick, I don't mean this in a nasty way. This was one of the worst lead-outs I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, it wasn't. As Pogacar said, can I go progressive? She could not go progressive. It was just like a sort of steady pace, and then she didn't really accelerate, and then Kasia had to generate her own pace. And I know it's a steep section, but like Demi wasn't nearly being brought close to her threshold before that. And indeed, Kasia does give it a crack. Demi's in the wheel. She's covering her on the very steep section. We get to the middle. It rests for a bit. Demi starts to relay. She's obviously relaying because she feels really, really good. And she even attacks Kasia seated once, tests her, and it becomes clear Demi wants to show that she's the strongest rider in this race. And she can win by more than 8 seconds. But then Kasia's like pulling with her on the 5% section, which also like probably shouldn't do. And then Demi counters her, squeezes her off the wheel, and goes clear, and that's a wrap. Because as I said, this descent is 8Ks in there at 3% downhill. That is big, big trouble for Niewiadoma against Vollering. She's never making that back. And it's also why Niewiadoma basically had no chance to win this stage or take time unless Demi had to like cover attacks for 2 hours. Because this descent finish, I mean, even if she dropped Demi by 30 seconds, Demi's coming back. So the opposite happens. Demi takes a minute plus on Niewiadoma. She seals GC, of course. She wins her second stage of the week, 2 stages in a row, both in Nice. Wins her second Tour de France GC with a gap, in the end, a comfortable gap of 1:18. Overall, by far the strongest rider in the race across TT, punchy hills. Vontu we can discuss, but certainly today she was the strongest. And in the group behind, we had Blasi and ELB pacing. So ELB came good on this climb. She had obviously suffered it for a bit on the second Col d'Ez, or second last Col d'Ez. She came back. De Vries, Vladarchik, Kerbol's dropped. Remember, Kerbol was 5th in GC before today's stage. Royce is out of the picture completely. ELB can just ride for her own. Like her third is set, basically. She just has to cover Niedermayer, because Niedermayer was only 40 or so seconds behind her. They're working on the descent. ELB sometimes not. Holmgren's pulling a little bit. We get to the finish. I'm like, oh, it's a wrap. ELB's got third. No dramas. ELB's just not in the group at all. And Blasi's sprinting for second. And yeah, we're like, what the hell just happened there? ELB rolls in 8 seconds behind that group. 8 seconds behind Niedermayer, rather. She doesn't even know if she's still got third, by the way. Like, she was like, did I save it? And I was like, you finished 8 seconds behind Niedermayer. They were
Wait,
really, she
what
punched it
happened?
at the end. I think she mech'd.
She mech'd and switched bikes, or she mech'd and tried to survive on the mech tire?
I don't know.
Because
Plus, he should have
to
given
only
her a
lose
bike.
8 seconds after a mechanical and bike change, that would be insane.
She had to be nursing a flat.
I really don't know. I'll be honest, I have no clue what
something
happened with Elisa Longoborghini. But she comes out on the podium of this Tour de France Femmes after Reusser's crash. So, and to be honest, I don't think the crash matters. I think Reusser dropping that early would have indicated that Longoborghini takes their third place, regardless of whether Reusser crashes or not. I think Reusser would have lost enough time for Longoborghini to take third. So it's still 2 Col d'Azur to come. So either way, I want to conclude this segment by highlighting Demi Vollering for a second, because I had a bit of a journey with Demi Vollering, you and I, because I feel like her rise was basically the length of this podcast. I swear back in the day, she was riding for Park Hotel Valkenburg, where I think the first 3 times we noted her a few times in other races, but also especially in Flèche Wallonne, where she started becoming a fanatic competitor of both Van der Breggen and Van Vleuten across multiple years. And then we came to, I think, the 2023 Tour de France, where we expected the torch to be given across, right? Where Van Vleuten ended up winning, well, the one before, 2022, I think the Blanche Belfier stage. 2023, we expected a clash between the two. We didn't really get that clash. Van Vleuten had fallen off the hill a little bit, and on the other side, Vollering had climbed the hill completely to her best level before this Tour de France Femmes, which was a Tourmalet stage in 2023. And at that point, we thought to ourselves, okay, Vollering is the person that's going to be dominating the Tour de France Femmes for years to come. But in women's cycling, it's not that simple, because you've still got riders that either come from other sports, that are super talented and suddenly get the opportunities they deserve, that come from other mountain bike disciplines, for example, in Pauline Ferran-prevot after being a road cyclist ages ago, that come back into the sport and start becoming a clashing competitor. Add to that, let's be honest about it, the teams that Vollering was a part of weren't always in her favor strategy-wise. I think that counts for both SD Works and the first year at FDJ Suez, where there were struggles last year with FDJ Suez. She was a part of a lead-out for Ali Wollaston, for example, on a flat stage, where she ended up crashing while doing that work, which a GC rider of the stature of Vollering should never be doing such risky work in the first place in a sprint stage. And she ends up crashing and then not performing at her level on the climb of Madeleine last year. This year, she shows up at this race with not the best FDJ Suez team in the world. Celia Géry is the go-to talent in the team. She really stepped up in this race, and she's been stepping up throughout the entire year. She's, in my opinion, best domestique in the team. Berthet today really stepped up after a few really weak days on her part. Muzic was relatively disappointing, I would say, in this race. Koch was bad day one, but good further on. Marie-Lené is difficult to quantify because she plays an earlier role and a role that is not really visible on camera, so it's hard to really say, oh, that's the role she played, but she most likely played the role behind the scene of getting beat-ons when necessary, etc. So also a role that matters. At the end of the day, even if you believe that yesterday the issues at the bottom of the climb would have resulted in Niewiadoma following if it didn't happen, Demi Vollering cleaned Niewiadoma up today anyway. So it's not like yesterday's difference mattered in the grand scheme of things to begin with. Demi Vollering was the deserving winner of this Tour de France Femmes, and FDJ Suez rode a relatively perfect race, I would say. I don't have any things this week where I'm like, I don't have any things, unlike previous years, where I'm pointing at, they really fucked up that day, they did something stupid there. I don't have that. I also feel like this is a thing that I think you and I both have as an opinion across the sport. We want riders to have personalities. And yes, you and I and many other people criticize Demi Vollering every now and then for tactical issues, like, for example, on Mont Ventoux, not using the best spacing ideas, not attacking at the right moment.
But that's
so
a good thing for the sport. Otherwise, Demi's like Pog. If she didn't do that, she would be infallible, because also the team was flawless.
But I think it's also valid to do that. On the opposite side, I see so many snarky reactions and comments about Demi Vollering being emotional in interviews as if that's a bad thing. And I really don't like that, because I want riders to be who they are. I don't want them to be unemotional robots. I want them to be the personality that they are and be able to give that personality without being pushed down. And that goes as much for Demi Vollering sometimes being emotional in interviews as Remco's bursts in men's cycling or Kacha's reaction yesterday, stuff like that. Do we really want to tone down this sport to the point that everybody's media trained? I don't want that. I want riders to give their personal opinion. And I think Demi Vollering is not just emotional for the camera, so to say. She's also just, I like how much she cares about setting an example for future generations. That makes sense? Because I think that's something that she really cares about. And I think she wants to not just have a legacy on the bike, but also off the bike.
Okay, but then, yeah, I mean, that's where yesterday they lose me, to be honest. I know I keep coming back to it, but because like if that's your brand, right? If your brand is cycling, we're going to win. If we don't get penalized, then that's cycling. But like you say, if you want to leave a legacy, then I don't know. That's where I think she's hurt herself a little bit there yesterday. But Cassia, but I agree. Yeah, she's a great example of also like just a top athlete.
And a racer. Whenever she's like,
she attacked every time. Every time she could this tour, she attacked.
Giro d'Italia women, perfect example of the same exact thing where she wasn't in the lead before the end of the race. She attacked and took the lead after Anna van der Breggen was in the lead.
Final stage was really, really good, yeah.
That's also why I hinted at it earlier. I think it helps her mentally. This is pure speculation. It seemingly helps her mentally to be a little bit gone from that favorite role and to be in a more, I can afford to risk to win the race situation. She seemingly is able to break more barriers from that position.
Yeah, I think definitely that last stage, she finessed Van der Breggen. They had a plan and she just killed her in that Giro final stage. She knew she had exactly Van der Breggen where she wanted. Ventoux, to me, is the real question mark of this race, and we'll probably never know. Cassia definitely had a great day, but
for sure.
Even watching after today, I was watching today, and it just made me start thinking, what was Demi doing on Ventoux?
Yeah, but not every day is the same day either, and like, what was she doing on Ventoux? Do you say that as in you believe if Vollering followed Kasia Niewiadoma and before we get to the bold spot of Ventoux that she could have followed afterwards? Are you more saying that the last 4 kilometers of Ventoux? Because the last 4 kilometers I agree with.
That's what I mean. I think she could have brought the gap way down. I think she could
have been in the yellow jersey.
She had too much in the tank. Too much. Because the level between her and Cassia this race, like she was better than her at every step. And today they're also going uphill on a steep gradient. It's still like quite a long climb on Col d'Aise. And Demi was never under any pressure. So I think
it's the early attack. She attacks a bit too much before we get to the bald spot of Ventoux. In so doing, putting her at her limit. That's when she chooses not to respond to Kasia, hoping that Reusser does it, and there it falls into the wrong side. I think she was also struggling at that point in the race when she hits the bald spot. I keep calling it the bald spot. It's weird to say, but it's actually a bald spot. When she goes beyond the tree line into the bald spot of Ventoux, that's where she looks a bit lecooked, as we say in French. And then by the end, it seemingly is that she's able to recover a bit before doing that masterful attack in the last kilometer, but that masterful attack could have gone earlier or more relays earlier, a combination of both, because I think Vollering could have been in the yellow jersey after that stage.
No, she should have.
I don't think she could have won that stage.
No, I don't think so, because also she would have had, say she dropped Reusser, then Cassia can sit on her, and Cassia was very strong, but she should have been in yellow after that stage. But
hey, it's good for the race. I'm not complaining.
It was a great last. Those 3 stages in a row were fantastic. But indeed, she wins the GC overall. Niewiadoma second. She's on the podium now for the 4th time. She's been on the podium in every edition, 5th time.
She was on the podium on the first time as well. Niewiadoma on the podium every time. Vollering also on the podium every time, right?
Yeah, both of them. That's crazy consistency. On the Longa Borghini 3rd. That is. She never podiumed.
Her best result was 6th.
Yeah, she struggled in this race, and she's now got her best result. She'll be happy with that. UAE also finished 5th with Blasi. Niedermeyer moves into 4th. Reusser completely falls out of the top 10. Blasi wins the white. No, Jesus, no. Niedermeyer wins the white jersey. Blasi was not allowed to attack. Weber's the points jersey, Peterson the QOM jersey, and UAE the team's classification. Fisher Black in the end sneaks into the top 10 and Holmgren moves into 8th. They're the main movers. Yeah, I think a very good race. I would rate it. I'd rate it 8.5 out of 10.
Are we not doing like a separate recap podcast for the Tour de France Femmes? We're probably doing a weekly show instead because we have to do transfers
next week. Yeah.
So if I have to get my takes out right now, then I would say, the final stage was a bit of a meh for me because I expected a bit more flashes in the second half of today's stage. The first were, I think 8.5 is fine. Maybe if I look back at the other Tour de France Femmes, I might think differently. 2024 is difficult to beat with the 4-second difference and the clash on the final day. That is for sure. I think I'll have to rewatch them all and try and judge, but I think 8.5 is fine. I think that's a good score. I think it's slightly better than Giro d'Italia women this year. I'd give that an 8. It's far better than any men's Grand Tour this year.
The Giro had the Queen stage amended, so it can't be as good as this race, I'm afraid. It wasn't their fault. There was a landslide, but it is what it is. To complete the circle and have good feelings, there is a video on Vila Flits of Niewiadoma going up to Lars Bohm and apologizing for what she said yesterday. She's a bigger person
Lars
than me.
Bohm?
Yeah, she's a bigger person than me. Not to do the Mark Wahlberg. If I'd been on that plane, if that happened to me, I'd go fucking crazy. Even if I was in the wrong. No, I'm not. I'm just talking about how human beings are. You know, I'm not saying it's right or wrong. It's just how human beings are. If I felt I'd been wronged and lost a Tour de France because of it,
well,
the grudge is being held to my death. In the coffin, right? I'll get up and I'll be like, if that person's at my funeral, I'll get out of the coffin and say, get out. You wronged me 60 years ago. So Cassie's a better person than me.
The one thing that I found weird is going up to Lars Bohm. If you think you're in the wrong, then I think you go to Jerry.
That's what I don't get. No way Cassia didn't. Cassia doesn't now think Cassia doesn't think after watching the replays that she wasn't wronged.
No, she doesn't. I'm confident of that.
So,
but that doesn't mean it's...
Don't give them the satisfaction. Maybe some people, I think maybe other people, what we're realizing is they might be more mentally healthy than me and they want to let go of grudges and bad things in their life.
I think that's also true. I'm also the kind of person when I've got beef with someone, I kind of want to get the beef over with and get on with my life, you know?
Because you're an Irish Benji.
Yeah, the thing you said earlier about disaffecting Vollering's legacy, so to say, or caring about a legacy and stuff like this, hindering it, I think everybody forgets about this in 3 days' time.
I won't forget. You got to get more Irish, Benji. You've got to have 2 years where you don't speak to a family member and you don't even know what your grudge is about. You just know you're not speaking to them at the moment.
Yeah, but I'm the kind of person, to be clear, I've had grudges in my family, like between people where they're like, they don't speak to each other for 7 years. And I'm like,
yes,
I don't even know why you two are fighting. Like, I've got a solution for that. Just don't talk to your family. That's a joke. That's a joke.
You do that, and then you're like, I forgot. It's been so long, I've forgotten why we're beefing.
Yeah, I don't have that. I feel like it might be true that some people are in a more healthy well-being than you, Patrick. Especially after the prediction contest, Patrick. Because
I thought you were about to say after the Tour of Poland time trial today.
That too.
Visma couldn't run top 30 in the stage. I
wanted to talk about how did you manage to lose by 343 points?
I think literally every rider I picked had some sort of like severe medical issue the next day.
So I want to go over them for a second. Is that okay?
And then they were superb 2 days later. Like Holmgren today is suddenly flying. I'm like, oh, well, that's convenient. Nice you found your legs. Where were they 2 days ago?
So, stage 3 pick of Wiebes, who lost the yellow jersey that day. Stage 4, you picked Anna van der Breggen. She had poor legs that day and just fell through, I think. Kopecky on stage 5 finished in the Gruppetto. this humiliation ritual, or how far are we going with this?
I've forgotten who I picked.
To be honest, I forgot you picked Kopecky at any point in this race too, if I'm being completely honest.
Yeah,
but today is the perfect example. You picked Reusser for today.
Well, that's tough.
And her legs disappeared, and then she hit the ground.
But literally, what was going on? What? Yeah, but sorry, I didn't see Zoe Backstep dropping Reusser today. It wasn't in my crystal ball last night.
I think your picks were fair, to be honest. I think you were just against a better opponent. What can I say?
You
gonna hit me back in the Vuelta?
Yeah, I'm just gonna pick Pog every stage and then see what. Then what are you gonna do? And you're not allowed to pick Pog, so there you go. I looked today. I think he can win 10 stages.
I think he's gonna clean it up in the first week and then be like, "I gotta relax, bro, because I gotta do Worlds after."
We'll quickly wrap through Tour of Poland 1 week World Tour race finish today. A double for Tudor Pro Cycling. By the way, they don't regularly win World Tour races. They won 2 on the same day. Their new signing, Stefan Kung, back from injury, won the TT. But even more importantly, Marco Brenner does a fantastic TT, finishes 7th, and because of the bonies and small gaps he had the other stages, he wins GC by 10 seconds ahead of Fisher Black, 16 seconds ahead of Romeo. Scaroni drops 6 spots in the TT to 7th. Lemon, he drops also from 3rd to 5th. Barret 2nd to 4th. So Visma off the podium after the TT. Jan Christian, he lost time in the TT. How did he drop a spot? Yeah, Christian didn't do a great TT. I thought he'd do better because I also just like him.
Misunderstood genius.
Exactly. Brenner. GC World Tour 1 week.
It's not just that, it's also a pro team winning one. I think Lotto UAE Tour 2024 maybe last time.
Van Aert though.
I think they were a pro team back then, but does that really count? It technically counts, but
Tudor are not like they're
not
even
Lotto,
the best
even
pro team.
If Lotto's a bit meh.
Yeah, so pretty impressive victory for them. Marco Brenner, remember, he came straight out of juniors into professional ranks when he went to DSM. He struggled with injuries, and he's always been a huge challenge. He was like Remco level. I remember he was maybe the first rider I ever interviewed.
He was like, him and Simmons were dominating the youngsters. And then they both moved up early, I think, at the same time.
Yeah.
And then Brenner kind of fell on the wayside, maybe took a... Am I inventing this, or did he take, quote unquote, a year not off? But I swear there was a moment where
he'd been injured. He was injured a lot, but still racing a lot. He was injured a lot, and then racing a lot. And then he moved to Tudor, and he's ended up not being really a pure GC rider. He's a puncher. Already first year Tudor, he was solid in some races, minor calendar. He's also, when you've been, Forn Ardèche, like, he's actually in the group with like Lenny Martinez and co at the end of this climb. He's been doing, TDU was 4th this year, but this is obviously the biggest victory of his career.
UCI points.
And the UCI points are obviously delicious. And Visma did get the most UCI points out of the race for GC, but
I'm sorry. Can I be completely honest? Anyone who's like up there in like P2 to P12, I don't really care about you in the GCI in the GCI rank. What is that? In the World Tour ranking. I know individual teams care about, we've got to try and be the second best team behind UAE Team Emirates. I want to be a top 3 team in the world, so to say, because I want to be the next team that can maybe eclipse UAE Team Emirates, so to say. For me, it's either you're first or you're fighting for relegation. The rest,
it's true.
I don't care.
Like the UCI points for like the good teams, it really doesn't matter. Like it's throwing
ego.
You can't put an Instagram post. Look, we're moved into 3rd in the ranking, and your sponsor's like, yeah. It's like putting.
It does matter for riders, or do riders in teams like a Red Bull or something that like P2 to P10, do they also have bonuses for UCI points in their contract?
I have no idea about specific. I would assume teams that, Astana, it matters a lot to them when they were signing riders and they were on the cusp of relegation. It mattered. So, but then it doesn't really matter for any substantive reason for the top teams. But then for the lower ranked teams, it's literally life or death for your franchise, the UCI
Yep.
points. If you get relegated, your sponsors might be able to pull out. So they do matter. But yeah, Breno, I think for Tudor, they win a World Tour 1 week race. That's huge. And Kung, who obviously they're paying a lot of money, he also delivers.
I wanna give a little bit of a self promo here for a second. My apologies, Patrick. My apologies. I'm gonna be uploading a Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift tier list video, just like I did for the Tour de France men's race and the Giro and so forth, where I rate every single team on my Benji Nothing YouTube channel. And I wanna tip a hat to one of those teams actually in this podcast, because I feel like there's a lot of smaller teams in the women's Tour de France, by the way, like whether it's Mayenne, Ma Petite Entreprise, etc., where you don't really see them in the race. Ma Petite Entreprise, you properly saw them in the race. They were in every breakaway almost. They were one of their riders was in the last 20 riders to drop on today's stage, for example.
Lemuel.
They're the ones with the SpongeBob Patrick bikes, which probably gave them more attention. That's a team where they definitely performed above what you expect in a race like this.
Yeah, they were good. I was always almost all the hard stages. I would tune in and look at like the group. I'm like, oh, they're in that group with all the big teams. It's quite impressive. So yeah, go check that out on Benji's channel. They're always good videos to watch. Thanks for your
In the coming days.
In the coming, yeah, probably if he doesn't, Monday 10 a.m. British time. If he doesn't have it, start pestering him. And thanks for being with us. We really appreciate it throughout the Tour de France month. It's been this feels like a real demarcation point for us from like Giro into Dauphiné into men's tour, now women's tour. You know, we'll have a weekly show next week and then the Vuelta. So, but still, it does feel like a line in the sand for the season. So thanks for being with us. All your support. We've enjoyed all the pods, and we'll see you with the weekly show sometime next week. Ciao, ciao.